Jack Billings. Is he the forgotten saint? Now, I don't say that out of disrespect. I genuinely just think that with how his career's progressed, the injuries, the lack of form, the emergence of some other midfielders and forwards, but we've just kind of disregarded, I guess, his potential input into the St Kilda Football Club. Now, I'm not saying he deserves to be praised for his efforts. I'm not saying that he's an absolute superstar and he needs to play every single week. I just think that with the way that his career's gone, from the moment we drafted him, the endless comparisons with Marcus Bontempelli, the weight of the world on his shoulders early in his career where he was really the new kid on the block. I just feel like the general opinion of Jack Billings across the St Kilda fan base is quite unfavourable, maybe. The majority had that opinion. That, they were either on the fence about him, weren't fussed whether he played or not this year, and basically talk about him as if his career's done. And that's not the case. You look at Jack Billings, he's 27. There's still time. Now, he's just getting back into full training from his back injury, which is great news. But if we just look at his career as a whole, you can really see how up and down it has been for him. Debuts in 2014, 2015, 2016, shin injury and ankle injury. Then you got his 50th game in 2017. This is his 50th game, and he's had 30 disposals, 12 marks, and kicked 5. Outrageous performance. Then that year signs 2 years. Then in 2018, it's the exact opposite. He has a form slump to the point where he's actually dropped. And he goes to VFL and he has 53 disposals and dominates, and then he's immediately recalled back to the team. Then in 2019, he's in the leadership group. We forget that. He was in the leadership group. After Dylan Roberton had his heart issue against Geelong, he was then elevated to the leadership group, which is great. Just shows the standing that JB has within the playing group. Then he plays his 100th game in 2019 against North Melbourne, and again starred with 35 disposals. Finished 4th in our 2019 best and fairest. Then again, he signs a contract extension in 2019, keeping him at the club until 2021. Then we all knew what kind of happened in 2021. Speculation about changing clubs, maybe going to Essendon. And at the end of 2021, he signs a new deal and he's at the club until the end of 2025. You can see there's some really top highs there for JB, and there's some really bad lows. Majority of them were injury, but obviously form-wise as well, to the point where he was dropped to Sandy, where he then responded. You look at his career as a whole, and it's very, very hard not to compare him to the likes of certain players around him that were drafted in 2013. But we're not going to do that in this video. We're really just going to talk about JB on his merits, not up against the likes of some other superstars in the competition. One thing that's always really intrigued me, or at least not intrigued, more annoyed me about the treatment of JB is, where's his best position? Like, to me, I've always been an advocate of him playing half forward, forward pocket. That is it. I don't think he'll ever be that gun wingman that we thought he might be, and I don't think he's ever really going to be suited to playing in the guts full time. Now, he might well be a decent halfback flanker, good foot use, but I've always thought that 2017 was his most dangerous year, and that was only his 3rd or 4th year in the competition, and that's when he had his most shots at goal. So if we look at his stats, I've got them here in front of me. He played 22 games in 2017, which is excellent. Most games he's played in a season, equal with 2019. He kicked only the 23 goals, but he's had over 60 shots at goal. He kicked 36 points that year, plus you'd assume a couple out in the full. That to me was his most dangerous year. I've always said JB with 35 disposals in the midfield or on the wing, chipping it around, is not nearly as dangerous as 15 or 16 disposals within the range of 60 metres, as a small forward or as a half forward flank, because he's going to have 3 or 4 shots on goal in that situation. And I think that obviously goals wins games. Touches, you just accumulate and it's pointless. To me, I think that JB has more value in the forward 50 or around that 60 metre arc area than he does anywhere else on the football field for St Kilda. But the downside is that with his form, his drop in form, his injuries, other players have emerged. Other players in those positions. Half forward, forward pockets, where do you fit him? You know, you've got Dan Butler, you've got Jack Higgins, you've got other players that can go there, Gresham as well. It's very, very difficult to find a spot in those positions for JB. Then you look at the midfield on the wings, again, equally difficult. And that's why I wanted to do this video, because he's the enigma of the St Kilda Footy Club. He's a player that I still think has a lot of value to show the supporter base. I think we all want to see it. We all want to see JB succeed, but we've all kind of thought, well, majority at least have thought he's just not going to turn out to be that player that we thought he was going to be when we drafted him, which I think is unfair to JB, because he's never put his hand up and said, you know, I'm going to be the savior. We put that label on him when we drafted him. And you should never do that to a player. You know, we did that kind of a little bit with Paddy McCartan. We've definitely done that to Max King. Luckily, for the most part, he's lived up to that hype. But we've put an unfair amount of pressure on certain players when they've been drafted, particularly when they're drafted within the first 10 picks of their draft year. I think, again, similar to Hunter Clark, that with the changes to the coaches, to the structure of the footy club, the admin, getting the likes of Lenny and Harves in, the whole mentality shift of the footy club, I think we can still see some really, really good football from Jack Billings. But again, it's on him. He's got to train hard. He's got to deliver consistently. There have been too many games where JB started either like a house on fire, gone missing in the second half, or vice versa. Where he's quiet, kicks a few goals late, but the game's done, and we're wondering, where were you in the first 10 minutes? He's now a senior player. This is a huge year for Jack Billings. And I'm not going to lose faith. I really do think that if we can just hone in that expectation, if we can find that position. You look at Brad Hill. I think wing or forward of centre for Brad Hill, you get the best out of Brad Hill. We've seen that at Freo. We've seen that at Hawthorn. We haven't quite seen that at St Kilda. I think with Jack Billings, it's a similar sort of prospect. I don't want to try and mould him into the player that he's never going to be. Because if he was going to be that player, we would have seen signs of that already. But he hasn't shown that. I think that we need to settle for a player that can impact the scoreboard more so than being that game-changing midfielder that has 40 every week and sets everything up from the wing. I really just don't think that's the type of player that he will ever be. But I still firmly believe that he can be a dangerous asset to the footy club on game day. I think he can still be a player that the opposition think, well, we can't tread lightly, with Jack Billings, because he'll kick goals on you. He's got good craft in front of goal. He knows how to find the goals. He knows how to rove. Look at the goal he kicked against Geelong in round 9 in 2022. Paddy Ryder, bang, JB, swoops, left foot. We've seen him do that countless times. And that's why I think that there's a bit more freedom for JB in the forward half. And I think, lastly, another reason why JB could be in for a fairly important, hopefully, I guess, growth year, is that the expectation, to me at least, is lowered. I feel like a lot of us have always wanted JB to be that top 5 player in our team. Ross Lyon is obviously not going to be afraid to drop a player like Jack Billings. He's done it to Nicky Dell, he's done it to Stevie Milne, and he's not going to hesitate to drop someone like Jack Billings to Sandy and say, go find some form. And guess what? Unlike what Richo did, if you get 50 touches at Sandy, that doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get a game the following week. It just means, good job, back it up again, and then we'll talk. I think that's the way that Ross would go about it. Nothing wrong with a bit of tough love. And I don't think JB and a host of other players have really had that at St Kilda since they've been there, because they've been there with Richo. They didn't really drop many big names. And then obviously Brett Ratton, who really didn't drop anyone for the most part, apart from when we had injuries. So I think this is going to be a big mental change for JB, but maybe one that matures him and one that hopefully will help us see the best out of him. And by best, I don't mean a Brownlow medalist. I mean a player that is just another cog in an otherwise, smooth running machine that is St Kilda, hopefully this year and in years to come. So I put it to you, Sainers, is JB a forgotten saint? Put it in the comments. Let me know your feelings towards Jack Billings. Please be constructive, similar to the Hunter Clark one. And I do thank everyone for being respectful towards Hunter Clark in that video. Same with this one. I want to know, do you have him in your starting lineup for round 1 in 2023? Yes? Great. If not, let me know why. I'll leave it there, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Please like the video, comment your thoughts as I mentioned, and most importantly, help us get to 10K this year by subscribing, and you get notified on all future videos on the Saints TV YouTube channel. But until next time, Sainers, take care of yourselves, and as always, go you mighty Sainers. See you guys.